heard this morning, they may even maybe an option to switch over to Google Gemini on the iPhone to get assistance as well, like AI type assistance.
Data center project, if you've not heard of it, it is a massive $100 billion, and I mean B with a B, billion. And let me say $1 billion investment.
$1 billion.
Hey there, tech enthusiasts. Welcome. I'm your host, Steve Woodard, and I am joined by the ever insightful, talented Brooke Seahorn.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
We're here to dive into the latest topics, the wildest and most fascinating trends in the tech world. But first, I have to give a big shout out to all of our amazing subscribers.
Oh my
gosh,
gosh,
rock.
yes.
Thank you so very much. We hit over 10,000 hits on our last video, Brooks. We're on a roll.
And I don't even know what we did, but let's just keep doing it and see what happens, okay?
Yeah,
and not get ourselves sued. Let's do that.
I'm all for that. So if you're new here and you love our content, please hit the thumbs up button so we can keep you bringing you the best of tech every single week. So let's just jump in and have some fun. So this week we had the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference. Boy, were there some big announcement there.
Can I stretch coach before we jump into wind sprints? Geez, that's a huge jump right in the pool. That thing was something else. Now, I want your opinion about this. And everybody, we haven't even discussed this. We're literally like, we're going to just ad-lib this thing and get our sort of right off the cuff sort of announcement. Here's the thing that has kind of flummoxed me. And I even saw it this morning on a news network, a business news network. There's a lot of folks out there saying, so what? Actually, I heard one person actually say, it's almost like it was $1 late and a day late and $1 short was the kind of the phrase he used. I don't want to use the exact phrase. Here's the thing that I have a problem with that. A lot of us out here in the community, you know, kind of the Apple fanboys and fangirls and stuff like that, we took our boats, we rammed it onto the island at Apple, jumped out, knocked a hole in the bottom of the boat, sunk it, and we were happily on the island forever. Okay, we haven't had those toys. We now have those toys. It is new to us. So my thing about it is that there's a lot of people out there saying, so what? Well, it's a huge so what, because there's millions of people who haven't had these toys.
Are you talking about the Apple Intelligence?
But you tell us about it. Tell us about it.
But here's the thing. You can have Apple Intelligence, but you need the newest iPhone 15. So the older iPhones need not apply.
Nope. Can't work.
But right. I agree. I feel like I kind of feel like, all right, we've been waiting for about a year or two for Apple to kind of come out with another wow factor. I thought they were going to come out with something around their enhanced language model or their ELM or their ELM. And come to find out, they're like, hey, we're just going to give you ChatGPT for free. I was like, but how are you going to keep my data secure? Don't worry about that. We got your best interest in. We are security first, privacy first. We're just sharing it with someone else.
Exactly. Now, here's my problem, because I'm not being a fanboy for Apple, but I will say this. That is a pretty big deal for them to say, like, if they really do push it forward. Now, we all know what Elon Musk has said about this. Elon has said, if they do this, there will be no Apple gear at any of my businesses. It all is coming out. So, I don't know, but I do know some of these people on the app in the Apple security team, and they really are good. So maybe they can make it happen. But yeah, if you're working with OpenAI and you're shipping my data out, how is that working?
Yeah,
we got to see that.
I think it's going to be interesting because you've almost kind of got the trifecta of almost kind of like a mini monopoly at this point, right? The big three. Apple has now got hooks into OpenAI. Microsoft has 40% stake in OpenAI. There's a huge investment from Microsoft to get into the OpenAI space, where now they're basically bringing all of that into the Microsoft ecosystem. So now you kind of have this trifecta of almost kind of at the same time. You got the tech titans even being bigger.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's interesting because there was a few people that said, why is Apple doing this? They've got the smarts. Why didn't they build their own thing? I don't think it's that. I think it's the thing of them just saying, let's just get this going. Let's make this happen. Let's get going, versus taking all the time it would take to build up the LLM or the ELM or get that thing installed and make it work. Go with somebody who already has a functioning product. heard this morning they may even maybe an option to switch over to Google Gemini on the
Mhm.
iPhone to get assistance as well, like AI
Mhm.
type assistance. But the thing, and this is the thing I think most about on this one, Steve. I think about my dad. Okay, he's 84 years old. Um, Phones and him don't get along well. But the idea that he could say, some of the things we saw at WWDC, like, check my email. Do I have something from Brooks? And did he say when he was going to XYZ? And the phone can figure it out and tell it to him. It's kind of like, are we finally getting to where we were all dreaming technology was going to be back in the 90s? Because way back then, I remember even the NEC computers, it was the biggest deal that you could go, computer, print, and it was like after it took like 5 minutes to figure out, and then it would start printing. We're like, woo! It's kind of the same thing, but really functional.
I agree that there's definitely some really cool features in there. What I feel like, in a sense, when you kind of mentioned, kind of giving me the vintage vibe, a little bit about, kind of where we've been. It almost kind of feels like that moment where, remember when Apple back in the late 80s was a little bit in trouble and Steve Jobs had to get Bill Gates to
Mm-hmm.
kind of give them a push to kind of keep them from staying afloat.
Yep.
And you kind of mentioned, it's like, well, maybe Apple is just trying to work on getting a bridge into the artificial intelligence space,
Mm-hmm.
until they can kind of figure out. Remember, now Apple has kind of always been a company where they've not really been, they were not first in the phone market.
Mm-mm.
They were certainly not first in the Palm Pilot era. Remember, they had the Apple Newton, but then they got destroyed by Palm. And
Yep.
then HP had their own type of Palm Pilots.
The
Uh,
Jornada.
yes.
Oh.
Um, yeah, they were not first into the phone market.
Right.
They just made a better they were not first into the MP3 market.
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of sit back and they kind of have their own sort of evolution with their products. Maybe this is just a bridge for them to kind of get to where they have their own, and then they just kind of start cutting ties with, OpenAI.
It makes perfect sense. It's almost like sitting back and watching your friend in their Jeep try to cut across the creek to see where's the right place to go across. And then once you see a path forged, do it even better because you know the right way to go now. You knowing what everybody's want. So it's probably a good business decision long term. We're just gonna have to see how it shakes out. And I think more than that, once the security stuff gets worked out, how quickly it's adopted, how quickly people can use it. Is it going to become just a neat feature? My granddaughter's going to be saying, make me an emoji of Grandma eating pizza and make it funny for her birthday? Or is it really going to be a tool that we can leverage to do real gains in productivity?
I think it's definitely going to probably be a mixture of both, fun, entertainment, as well as productivity as well. We spend
Yeah.
so much time on our phone. If I don't have stuff in my calendar, it doesn't exist. If I don't have something that prompts me, like an alarm or a timer,
Right.
or like, it doesn't exist. If I were to go completely native for an entire weekend where I go without my watch and my phone,
Hmm.
I would kind of wonder. Would kind of almost kind of wonder either what time it is or where I need to be. It's kind of that vacation mode, right? You're not supposed to
Yeah.
look at your phone. You're on vacation,
But
maybe.
that's where my other brain is at. I've got to have that other brain. I've
Yeah.
got 3 engagements coming up in the next couple of months. I need to be able to see them because I can't keep it up here. So that's a great point. That's a very good point. Now, speaking of up here in the brain, there's another thing that popped out this week. And to change subjects here, another thing that popped out, and I've really been wanting to ask your opinion on this. What do you think about the AWS AI certs?
I think that that's a great question. Look, I'm all for. Again, I think this is kind of one thing that you and I've always talked about is, the advocacy around, training,
Yeah,
development, learning, and
yeah,
education.
yeah.
I'd kind of been asking this question for probably the last year and a half. Like, hey, where are you guys at? Um, there were some certifications that they had to retire.
Mhm,
And then I wonder,
mhm,
okay, so if you're going to retire and sunset a couple certifications, what are you going to replace them with? What's the next cutting edge part? Because
mhm.
I feel as though there's been some aspect where Microsoft has really been kind of like taking them to task on. We've got more certifications available for AI, DevOps, artificial intelligence, data engineers, data scientists.
Mhm.
What you got? And I think they just now are coming to the table with two new certifications. There's an AI practitioner, and then there's a machine
Right.
learning associate. I think this
Mhm.
will be great for people who are looking for entry level AI understanding, practitioners and foundational type of
Mm-hmm.
model. But again,
Mm-hmm.
I think if you look at like some of the search that Nvidia has around generative AI, large language models, this might start a certification. What's the word I'm looking for? A certification race to who's got the best certifications, the most widely
Yeah.
recognized. I'm not sure, but that they debut in August, and I'm gonna sit for the beta exam. Why not?
Ooh, I baited the speaking of betas, I sat for the data engineer, and I will say this when it was in beta. I'm curious to see if this exam is like that one where they really focus down on the exact products you're going to be using. And then they throw in a couple of little things really to rattle you. Like on the data exam, there was a little bit of networking on it, which I was surprised to see because I was thought if you're a real data engineer, you've probably not done a lot of networking in AWS. So that was kind of interesting they did that. I want to see if this exam does the same thing. Is they're going to kind of set it up like that? Now, the one thing about it is that it's going to be AWS AI. So like fundamental stuff, you may need to go back and look at that if this is something you want to break into. But if you want to make sure that you really understand what they're offering, how it works, this might be a good cert to go look at. Hey, everybody, let Steve go take it first, and we'll tell you what we think about it.
Yeah, let me be the beta tester on this. I'll be happy to kind of be first person in.
That literally is go jump in, Steve. Water's fine. Then we'll
Yeah,
find out when you hit the water.
yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting. Again, I'm all for training and certification. I love the fact that they're coming out with this. Again, probably going to be very geared towards AWS's version of their own type of Bedrock and their generative AI options and their Claude 3 model and their deal with Anthropic. I think it's a good thing. We'll have to see. But if I go take the exam, what if
Everybody, you see that whimsical look on his face? He's thinking about this really deep.
what what I could do? Here's an easy way for me to do it. I'll just go take the exam wearing my Meta Ray-Ban eyeglasses.
Oh, now hold on, sir. Time out. Time out. Now you've stepped over the flipping line.
Yeah, they're probably going
You
to ban
wear
me from testing facilities now. They're like, no, sir. No, no,
no,
no,
sir. Oh no, you're gonna get a call, sir. Are those metas? Meta Ray
no,
Bans? You
no.
look great. Get out.
Yeah, even though you could put a piece of tape over the lens, you could still talk to it.
Look, if I've got those things, you're not going to put no tape over that lens that I got to clean off later. It ain't going to happen. What do you think about those things? Because when I first saw them, my brain, everybody, yes, the Meta sunglasses are pretty slick. But here's the thing, my brain jumped immediately to thinking about the Bose sunglasses
Mhm.
where they had speakers built in. You could talk to an assistant. They had
Mhm.
that feel to them because you can obviously they got little speakers built in. But do you think it's going to be something where it's not glitchy, nichey, where it's like, okay, that was cool, or do you think we might be able to actually do something with it other than, are you recording me?
Yeah.
Putting everybody on spot.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be very popular. From what I've seen so far, with just them having the adoption and the integration with Ray-Ban, and their brand is very
Mm-hmm.
popular.
Mm-hmm.
And again, amongst most people, I find from let's just say from what I've seen is where young people are looking at it to kind of do some things where they want to say look this up, do this or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I also
Mm-hmm.
see it as a really cool way to kind of help enable older people who may not be able to maybe number one travel. They're in different places, they don't speak languages. Remember in the commercial that basically says, hey Meta, what does the sign say? And then it actually translates the language and the
Right.
speakers you can hear. I find like that it might help a lot of people in that capacity where they might either be visually or audio impaired. But I also think from a cool young perspective is I think they're pretty hip. I think this is where Google was trying to go with their Google Glass many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it
Mm-hmm.
was like everybody had kind of seen some prototypes of what Google Glass really was, but it never really hit mainstream. Like I can go
Nope.
to Ray-Ban, I can go to Ray-Ban's website right now, and Rayban, if you're listening, I would be happy if you want to be a supporter of the show. Um,
Absolutely. We'll do an unboxing because the
exactly.
kids do that.
Yeah, there's basically some out there for about $2.99, and it's like, okay, great, you
Mm-hmm.
can get them with prescription available. That's the type of adoption you see,
Mm-hmm.
and the easy access to the type of technology is super cool.
Right. Right. And then, and I think a lot about what you said, particularly on the travel. That's to me is a huge deal, particularly if it starts to become something more collaborative. I almost think like a barrier situation where, like, if you go to some city you've never been to before, you're visiting, maybe that
Mhm.
collective
Yeah.
knowledge of Meta could let you know, okay, this is sort of the boundaries of where you tourists need to be going because back here it's going to get complicated. You may get lost. Don't do that. Stay. That sounds so simple, but I am telling you, that is a huge impact player for a lot of people who like, I would love to travel. I don't trust myself. I'll end up, who knows where. What a
Mhm.
great thing to have it right on there and it's giving you that sort of that live feedback.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we'll have to see. I'm not allowed to have nice sunglasses because I destroy them.
Hmm.
So you're going to be the one who's going to have to test these for us, Steve. Okay.
It's like, did I leave those? Did I leave my glasses at the restaurant? That because that's always me. I leave my
Hmm.
glasses at the restaurant, at the park, when I'm out with the kids.
Uh
I'm
huh.
like, where'd these sunglasses go? Darn.
Hmm.
Well, someone's got a free pair of Meta sunglasses now. Thanks.
Well, okay. Now that brings up the other question. A lot of these devices we're now seeing because of the way they're set up. Yeah, you can get a free pair of Meta sunglasses, but then when you try to use them, what's going to happen? Like, is it going to stay logged into me? It's the security
Uh,
thing again. It's the security thing again.
Yeah, and again, the security of like, what are you recording? Am I being
Hmm.
recorded? Um, are you recording this conversation? This, I mean, all right, this is kind of like CIA, KGB, like dream spy gear type of stuff, right?
Yeah, it is.
I think
Yeah, it
Meta
is.
probably was flipping through some old declassified CIA documents and some stuff that was probably declassified from the Soviet Union, and they said, these spyglass things were really a thing back in the 60s and 70s. Let's do it.
And now you can walk around with your glasses on, and every person you see, it recognizes who they are, pop up their latest tweet, in real time,
Mhm.
letting you know what's going on around you. Wow.
I think
Wow.
this is kind of a wearables race. I think that Apple and Meta have always been in competition with each other with
Mm-hmm.
the Meta Oculus, right, and then the whole
Mm-hmm.
metaverse thing, and then Apple comes out with the Vision Quest Pro, right, and again, it's like in the wearables department, I think Meta and Facebook are really going. Meta and Apple are really going at each other with kind of that market share. Again, if you if you price something affordable for the consumer, I think most people can afford. If you're a Ray-Ban customer, you're used to paying the Ray-Ban prices, which tend to be
Premium.
usually
Yep.
pretty expensive, around 300-400 bucks for a pair of
Mm-hmm.
sunglasses,
Mm-hmm.
eyeglasses. But then you're talking about a $3,500 headset to get into the metaverse. You're like, well,
Yeah.
not for
Yeah.
everyday people. What I did think was funny was when I watched the Apple WWDC was in the intro, he was kind of doing the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible thing, right? Where he was kind of in the
Oh, it hurts so bad.
he was in the airplane, right?
Oh.
But then he says, "Are you ready to have some fun? Are you ready to have some fun?" And did you see the person that was sitting there that was wearing the Vision Pro? And
Oh yeah. Oh.
I was thinking to myself, you're in a sky jump airplane and you're on your Vision Pro glasses. Can't you just be present right here? We're about ready to jump out of a plane.
Well, worse than that, the jump master's going to come over there and punch you in the gut for doing it. So you're not going to be leaving the plane.
I thought that part was kind of silly.
There was some silliness in that thing, and I hate to say it's come down to one of those things of if you're creative, you're creative. If you're not, don't try, just walk away. It's going to be your best. Find the creatives, tell them because they'll be the one going, no, don't do that. You're insane. Don't do that. It's just not working, and make it better. Make it a lot better for goodness sakes.
The
And
per
hey, at Apple, get better music. I'm begging you. Get better bumper music. There
uh,
is incredible music out there. Go
Yeah.
and get it, for goodness sakes.
The part that where I can't remember the person's name that was kind of jumping around kind of everywhere, right? I kind of thought about Brooks, and I said, remember in our first podcast, I said, what is it that makes you so dynamic? And you're like, I guess it's probably violating OSHA standards or whatever. And I thought to myself, like, oh man, if OSHA has only watched this video right now, this guy's jumping around like crazy. You're gonna hurt somebody.
You're talking about when the guy goes, and let's find out now.
Yeah,
And the second he
and
turns, you can see it's like a younger guy with a gray wig on. You're like,
yes,
oh, come on.
it looked almost like a Saturday Night Live skit. I was like almost comedic, almost at some point. I was thinking to myself, like,
No, don't do that. Just
mm,
don't do that. I mean, just walk up, do your thing, and walk away. I get what they were trying to do. I really do get it. It's
well,
fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be dynamic. It's that old thing that you and I used to do, when you're standing in front of a room, every minute or so, do something, move, do one of these when you're talking to a business that you're talking to about technology. But it's got to be done well.
mhm.
Otherwise, you're just a dork. Just stop doing it.
You're pulling a Steve Ballmer, basically developers out there just sweating.
Sweat.
And then he springs his ankle on stage. It's like, well, what happened? You run out like a maniac.
Let me tell you what, and that man sweats that because he was at the AFITC conference, and I can't remember what 2000 and what. And our project I was on at the time was being watched by them carefully because we were pushing the bounds of Active Directory.
Mhm.
Sweaty guy, and to have him down here in August in Alabama, whoo, man,
Wow.
was a
So,
bad move.
so speaking of Alabama, you mentioned, of course, they're building some data centers out there. Can't let this one go, right? The Stargate data center project.
Yes.
Stargate data center project. If you've not heard of it, it is a massive $100 billion, and I mean B with a B,
Uh
billion.
huh.
And let me say $1 billion investment
$1 billion.
and invested by Microsoft and OpenAI. And what they're looking to do is they're basically building a supercomputer data center. Most data centers, and just to give people some perspective and scale, is most traditional data centers, when they're built, they basically cost anywhere between 25 to $30 million.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them probably at most are probably maybe 50 to $100 million data centers.
Mm-hmm.
This is $100 billion focusing on AI supercomputing. Back to the conversation we had last time around high performance computing. This is going to be the world's most advanced.
Well, let's see. How much heat does a $100 billion data center generate? There's no way around it. Look, if you want to do AI, you need serious HPC assets. I mean, nodes on top of GPUs, H100, H200s from Nvidia, you're going to generate a massive amount of heat. I mean, the flyover with a camera on the bottom of a helicopter, things is going to light up. But with what we're trying to do, that's what you're going to have to build. There's no way around it. So, as far as environmental impact, it's going to eat some energy. It's going to produce some heat. I think, though, and this is one of the things. I was at a technical school, like a major university, a few weeks ago. We talked about it, in fact, where one of the things they've done is they've actually wrapped several of their racks in this long sort of heat blanket, and they siphon all of the heat from there and send it up to the other floors in the building for heating purposes. Now, in the summer, that I don't know what you're going to do with it, but they kind of use it for that, and it makes good sense because you've already generated the heat. Just send it over there. The thing I'm really interested in, Steve, is going to be the infrastructure of this thing. Where are they going to get the power? Where's the cooling going to be sitting? How much noise is this thing going to make?
It's going to
I'm
be loud.
really waiting to. Yeah, it is.
It's
It's
going to be
going to
loud.
be loud. So hopefully it's maybe set away. They're building one here in Alabama, y'all. I'm not even kidding.
Oh,
It's
wow.
going to be on the other side of Montgomery. But here's the thing: where they're talking about setting it is going to be away. Like I think there's a car manufacturer nearby, but they're going to be over in an industrial area. That kind of makes sense. That's cool. We're going to
Mhm.
get some jobs from it too. Awesome. But as far as that one goes, Steve, that thing is going to be gigantic.
Uh,
100 billion.
I can't
Wow.
remember where it was. I got to go back and find my sources. Is that they were? I can't remember who it was. They were looking at a way for them to recycle the heat output that's generated from data centers. They basically funnel it through to heat towns
Hmm.
or areas where basically is that the heating cost is very difficult. So to give back into the
Yep.
community, make it more green, more efficient, is that they're using that to heat. The heat output is using it to heat water, heat homes in certain areas. I would
Hmm.
probably say they're going to probably have to find a place somewhere out like Wyoming, Montana. Like how like Facebook had built data centers in Iceland,
Yeah.
like because they
Yeah.
have massive amount where they just opened the door and they just said, "Oh, here's minus 40-degree weather. Come on in and just cool the data center." So probably it's going to have to be somewhere out there. It has to be, right?
It's got to be, but it's also the combination of you've also got to have really good data pipes talking to the world to get that data. You've also got to have really good power lines coming there from something local where when they flip the switches, it doesn't brown the town out. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. The infrastructure of this thing, there's going to be a lot going into it. And remember, everybody, it was just a minute ago that there was news about Amazon. What did they partner or buy a nuclear station? Do you remember that story? It was like in Ohio-ish or something like that. I think they were going to be a partner for a power station or a power, production facility. And I was thinking they're going to build a data center on that thing right near it. They're bound to do it. Look at Steve. Steve's quickly looking this up to
No,
verify.
I remember this is that in the late 2000s, I know that Bill Gates was working on building nuclear power plants. I know that he
Yep.
had to basically build in order they were building a new form of nuclear reactor. But here was the thing is that they were working on these very small modular nuclear reactors. The
Yeah.
only place that they could actually test them, because they could not get past the Atomic Energy Commission in the
So you
United States, is
could.
they had to put them in China and they had to test it in
Oh,
China. So now I think it was June. Okay, here it is, June 2024. Bill Gates breaking ground on nuclear power plant in Wyoming. I think this is probably where Pacific Quartz Naughton Power Plant is going to be live in 2026, natural gas and nuclear.
hey.
So I think this is probably where they come together with nuclear power and the supercomputers for data center. Because where else is it going to come from? Like you got
Yeah.
Texas, which is saying, listen, Texas is being oversaturated with Bitcoin miners. The power plants are kind of saying, look, this Texas heat wave, it's no joke. We got to reduce consumption of power, and that means
Hmm.
reducing the mining operations. So they got to go somewhere where they can just say, look, we own the power, we own the data center. It's like the monopoly of like how Disney descended upon Central Florida. They got their own power plant, their own water treatment. I mean, they've got
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
Welcome to the town of
Hmm.
Microsoft.
Exactly. And they're going to put a big ring around it. And Bill's going to be the mayor. He's going to set all the rules and everything. They're going to own the sheriff, whatever that would mean. And they're going to build this thing. But here's the thing about it. And this is what I think is amazing. That's where we're heading. And to me, that gets me excited. The idea of technology moving to the point where you've got to have a nuclear reactor to run that thing.
Yeah.
So somebody's got to either figure out a new technology or we're going to have to embrace the fact that we're going to need a lot more power generation, like incredible power generation somewhere in this. Who knows? Maybe eventually we can put these things up in space and they can just be out there just venting cold to space and using giant solar arrays for power. Hey, that's neat. But until then, we got to have a solution. And that seems like a pretty good way to go for now.
Uh,
Steve doesn't buy my sales.
I,
He's not buying my sales pitch.
I, I,
Rebuttal.
no, I completely agree with that idea. I mean, I think again is that a lot of people are very much for clean natural gas. They're very much for
Yeah.
clean energy. They're very much about climate change. All that stuff's cool. I don't think that you get any better, more cleaner than nuclear power than fossil fuel plants. And again, I'm not an expert in this area. I only have an opinion. But I think that it's going to take a combination of if you want this type of technology, this artificial intelligence, it's going to take massive supercomputers and you're going to need
Mhm.
massive amounts of power. And we'll
Mhm.
just have to build our own power plants. It just is so funny. Technology now is encompassing its next level of its own industry. It's almost first
Yep.
it was the personal computer, now it's supercomputers, now it's data centers, now it's power plants that actually run and harness that type of power to produce all that.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's an incredible time to be alive.
In the 1990s, there was a book written by an author by the name of Drexler. It was called Engines of Creation. And in that book, This cat was talking about nanotechnology. Okay. He was explaining how it would work and da 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 da. He went on to say, if you want AI, it's going to be like a cube of nano processors. And he said flat out, I think it was something on the order of, gosh, I can't remember, 20 something gallons per second of water to keep it cool, washing through this thing. So, folks,
Yeah,
if this guy was right, because it seems like we're going in that direction, then yeah, this is going to be exciting, very exciting. Just the technology to make it work right is going to be incredible.
it
Man,
really
to,
is.
to be a pipe fitter on that operation, to be the union pipe fitter, you're never going to be out of work. Never.
Never. Yeah, job security, you will have a job for the rest of your life there.
Exactly. Exactly. Man, that's fantastic. Was
So,
anything else caught your eye this week, Steve?
uh you know what? I literally probably could talk about a lot of things. Nothing else really kind of caught my eye, and other than just some of the stuff that Apple was coming out with,
Yep.
the
Yep. That's
Stargate
going to
data
be
center, the
interesting.
AI certs. Um,
Mhm.
I feel like this could be a whole 3-hour program just on what we see on a day to day basis, right? Just us, and technology and technologists, what we see. I mean, there's so much stuff that comes at us, even as technologists like Brooks and myself. It's a fire hose almost on a daily basis.
And it never stops. It started in the 1990s, and the darn fire hose has not stopped spraying water and information everywhere. So, yeah, that's always the challenge with this. But at the same time, the unique challenge of it is that we're always learning, always learning. It's always something. But if you're excited about it, it's fun. And I can say some of the things we saw this week are pretty fun, pretty exciting, and let's see where this goes.
I couldn't agree more. Well, I think that about rounds out up our segment for this time. I can't again thank everyone who's tuned in, subscribed to this channel. Again, let us know how we're doing. Leave a comment in the comment section. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to keep those thumbs up coming in, and we'll keep working on bringing you content on this topic every single week if you want us to.
We'll even give you some insider dirt sometimes. We discussed that before the show, everybody. We got scared. We didn't do it. Maybe next time.
Oh man, Brooks, we can do. I can't wait to do this again.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Talk
everyone.
to you. Thanks,
Cheers.
everybody.